All right, everybody. On this video, we're going to talk about ecological succession. Pretty much, what it is, um, examples of it, when you may see it. Okay. First, with these videos, make sure that you actually listen to the video and do your reading, because I'm not going to read everything on the screen, and there are some things on the screen that you will be held accountable for, and that other things that will help you understand it too. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. What is succession? Succession is the change in an ecosystem that happens when one community replaces another as a result of changing abiotic and biotic factors. Okay, and you should know what abiotic and biotic mean. Abiotic is non-living and biotic is living. Or, this is probably what you would end up writing down in your notes, kind of summing it up. What happens when one ecosystem changes into another ecosystem? All right, you have two types of succession. You have primary versus secondary succession. This would be primary succession. Primary succession is, like you see, that's brand new land. You had a volcano that erupted, and that's brand new rock that was formed from, like lava cooling. So that's brand new rock. There's never been anything living there at all. Here on the right side, you have secondary succession, which might have, been there from a tornado or something like that, where there's already some topsoil and even a few little dead plants, maybe around, where there was some kind of destruction, some kind of natural disaster that, caused this ecosystem to be destroyed. All right, so primary, again, on the left side, comes from it's basically a ecosystem that was built on brand new rock where there was no topsoil and no previous ecosystem there. And then in secondary succession, this is an area where there was some kind of natural disaster, like an earthquake, tornado, something like that, a forest fire, and then a new community is formed or started on the grounds where an ecosystem has already lived. Okay, where there's already topsoil down there and things like that. All right, so primary succession, it's the establishment of a community in an area of exposed rock that does not have any topsoil. Kind of what we just described earlier. Everything that's in bold is kind of going to kind of sum it up. So it starts with bare rock to form a brand new community. That's primary succession. Just like the picture here of the volcano and the new rock over here, that's primary succession. All right. There are certain types of species that, will start to grow, and then continue to grow, just in an ecosystem in general. So first we call a pioneer species, which means those are the first species to start to grow. And you've usually seen, this type of green, sometimes slimy when wet or slippery when wet, moss or lichen. So the first species to settle on bare rock are pioneer species. They're typically mosses or lichen. It says a lichen is a kind of, it says lichen kind of looks like a fungus, but it's actually a fungus and algae living together. And there goes a little bonus question for you. What kind of relationship is this? What type of symbiotic relationship is that? Okay. Hint, you have mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. Also, small plants, ferns, and grasses, will be included in this level of plants or species growing. Pioneer species. Pioneer species die and decompose, making that topsoil that we talked about earlier. All right, the next step, as years and years go on and the ecosystem continues to grow, you have intermediate species. The intermediate species are grasses, shrubs, and small trees that don't need a lot of shade. Or not need, but they don't like shade, meaning they need a lot of sun. Okay, that's the intermediate species. All right, and finally, a climax community. The climax community, it's the stable, mature community that results when there is little change in the composition of species, which basically means it's an established community that won't change into anything else. It's a mature, final, species. Okay, I'm sorry. a mature final ecosystem. Okay. It says, however, it can still change if disaster strikes. Example, climax communities. Um, okay, it's asking, do you know of any examples of climax communities? Hint, think of the different kinds of biomes. Okay, but they'll give you some examples right here. Climax community examples. You have one over here, kind of like a grassland. You have one over here. If you can guess what that is, it's a desert. And one over here, which might be like a savanna. Excuse me. And one over here looks like a forest. All right. This is kind of just like a little thing to kind of help quiz you a little bit to see what you've learned. You have 4 different spots. Number 1, they're all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. Try and fill in those blanks. So this right here, you want to use these 4 words down here. So you have this section right here, which you see just looks like rock, nothing really growing there. Which one might it be? And then you have this one right here, which are going from the bare rock to where there's the first types of plants that are growing there, moving on into like grasses and things like that. And then you have 3, this area right here, where you have kind of small trees, shrubs, and everything that are growing around here. And then here you have the final, fully matured, species that are living there. So try and fill them out. So number 1 would be what? D, bare rock. Number 2 would be, if it's the first species that starts to grow there, that'll be the pioneer species. And then 3 is going to be it's not the first and it's not the last, so it's the intermediate species. And then finally, you have the climax community. I hope you got those right. All right, let's talk about secondary succession. Secondary succession is orderly and predictable. It's an orderly and predictable change that takes place after a community of organisms that has been removed, but the soil has remained intact. So basically, something happened and the, ecosystem, pretty much everything that was living there has been destroyed or removed, but the smallest, small remains of the soil and things like that, the topsoil remains. So a new community starting where a previous community was removed. That's just, the basic idea of a secondary succession. It's a new community starting where a previous community was removed. Examples after a rainforest fire or a tornado. Just giving you examples. All right, time for a review. A pioneer species is the blank species to settle in an area. First, last, best, worst. You choose. It is the first. Remember the mosses and the lichen? Good job. A blank is an established community that won't change into anything else unless disaster strikes. What might that be? Look at your choices. Choose. It is a climax community. Good job. Primary succession starts with blank. Is it intact soil, trees, bare rock, or previous community? It is primary, which means first. The first succession starts with bare rock. Remember that little graph down there? Blank starts where a previous community was removed, and that is secondary succession. Disaster strikes. And thank you very much.